If you're a baseball player who's been experiencing arm pain and you've tried bands, rest, ice, PT, you name it, and it hasn't worked, stick around for the rest of this video because I'm going to walk you through the exact program that we gave to one of our Division I pitchers that helped eliminate his arm pain in just 4 weeks. The first exercise we had him do is something called standing windmill. And this exercise is really working on a couple of things. It's working on vertical loading. So we're trying to establish the ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, and ear all right on top of one another, which is what we see in perfect posture. But the real thing that we're doing here is we're stabilizing the pelvis and creating thoracic mobility, but not necessarily in a T-spine extension manner, but more of a lateral flexion. So you can think of this as something similar to a position that a hitter needs to get into of how do I find that slot of where my shoulder needs to go. But the thing that you're going to notice when you do this is, for example, if I'm leaning to the right, my pelvis will want to shoot out to the left. The reason that it's happening is my pelvis isn't stable enough to allow this to stabilize and this mobilize. So what happens is a cheat or a compensation pattern where something moves to allow for excess motion up top. But that isn't efficient or what we're looking for. We want to stabilize and be able to be mobile in a different spot. So as you work through different positions with your feet being narrow, wider, widest, back to narrow, is you're going to feel the difference in how your pelvis is stabilized by being in a different width of your stance and by creating better stability at the pelvis. That T-spine is now more mobile, which then allows the shoulder to be more mobile in the direction that we want it to go, so there isn't just added stress being placed there. The next thing we had him do is something called standing elbow curls. Again, we're working on vertical loading with the wall being here, having the heels, butt, upper back, and head all touching the wall. The real important cue for this exercise to be done correctly and most effectively is this grip right here. It's called a modified golfer's grip. And the reason that you need to have this grip tight is it's going to challenge your shoulder in a more impactful manner than if you had that grip be loose. So as you're here with your knuckles on your temples, thumbs point down, as you're closing and opening this. Now, what most people's mistake is they think I'm just opening and closing the shoulder like a door hinge. That's not what we want to do. You want your scap to be the driver of this movement. You are working through scap protraction and retraction. So you need to be able to build the mind-body connection of how is the backside affecting the front side. As you do this, your grip, your thumb will want to fold in and your fingers will want to go out. It's going to become much easier if you allow yourself to do that, but that is the cheat mechanism that you are trying to avoid. The next thing that he did was hip crossover stretch. So this right here is working through pelvic rotation and stabilizing. Now, as you get into this position, when you rotate the foot down to the ground, one thing is going to want to happen. As you press the knee away from you to feel that stretch on the outer part of your hip, your ankle or your foot will want to roll or lift up off of the floor. That cannot happen. That is your body cheating to give you excess room at your hip to be more mobile. But again, that's just the compensation pattern. Your body's cheating to get into that range of motion. It is not about how much range of motion you can create. It is about how much your body can control. The other real important thing is the indirect effect that happens into the shoulder. This is going to stabilize the shoulder. So as you're laying here, this stretch is going to go through what's called your spiral line of connective tissue. Essentially, it connects one hip to the opposite shoulder. So as you're rotating, trying to throw or swing, you're storing energy in that rubber band. And then as soon as you start to rotate back the other way, it releases it. This exercise right here is going to work on the ability for you to store more potential energy into that slingshot. So as you do that, your palms are pressing slightly down into the floor with about 10% effort. The reason that's important is that creates the stability effect or a change in the shoulder position. So even though you aren't necessarily going to feel direct work at your shoulder here, it is going to work on the ability for you to stabilize into your shoulder so that it isn't having added stress placed there. From there, he went into something called cats and dogs. So that last exercise, you can kind of think it wrings your spine out like a wet paper towel, trying to work on some rotation. But we don't want to stay in this position. We want everything to flow in the same direction again. So what we do is something called cats and dogs. Think of this as a three-part movement. You probably have done some version of this, like a cat camel, cat cow. The big difference between this version and a yoga version is you are not moving everything at the same time. You are moving hip first, spine second, head third. You move in a 1, 2, 3 order, whether you are going up or down. We want the pelvis or the hip to be the driver of almost all athletic movements. You don't want it coming from your back. That's how you end up with inefficient patterns as well as low back pain. So as you go through this, the idea that I like to try to create in my head is you want to make as big of a wave as possible, whether we're going up or down through that pattern, moving one vertebrae at a time. The better that you can get at articulating or moving each vertebrae as an individual unit, the better athlete that you are going to be. And the last thing that we had him do is something called Cobra foot presses or active Cobra.
Cobra foot presses.
Really, what we're doing in this exercise is we're doing T-spine extension, scap retraction, as well as glute activation. So a lot of times when people start this exercise, they feel it primarily in their low back, in particular their erector group. So that erector group, or if you feel it in your low back, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just showing you how your body's compensating. So the big thing for this exercise is you are pressing and releasing the bottoms of your feet to cause your butt to contract. You are not contracting your butt to press your feet. There is a very distinct difference in the pattern of that movement. Your feet press to get your butt to contract. The other thing that you need to be mindful of here is you don't want your pelvis to lift up off of the floor. You don't want to feel like you're doing this. You want to feel like it's a teacup tipping down into the floor. That slight tip down is going to increase the glute activation that you feel here. The last thing I'll say about this is the position of your arms. Is by dropping down into this scap pinch, we're getting that low to mid thoracic region, in particular your rhomboid group, to get the scap to load. And when we're talking about scap load, whether we're a hitter or a pitcher coming up into our arm swing, is that rhomboid is what's responsible for retracting your scap to store the load that you want as you actually release. So the big thing about that is talking about the tricep. Your tricep is going to attach to the back of your elbow as well as to the shoulder blade. So when we retract the shoulder blade and then we externally rotate this, we're essentially trying to change how the attachment points fit in at those various areas. So if you're somebody who's dealing with arm pain or you're just looking to become a more mobile and better athlete, this is going to be one of the exact protocols that we use for one of our Division I guys to get him back on the field healthy.